What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, breaking news for Pokemon Go Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some teams and picks in the Summer Cup that is coming up. Oh boy, the Summer Cup, normal type cup with some other RPS things sprinkled in. How exciting. This meta, when we last had it, I don't remember it being particularly amazing, but I could be wrong here, as it has been a while since we've had a Great League Summer Cup. I think we had Ultra League Summer Cup last year, but anyway. We see the rankings here. We've had a lot of updates to the meta since the last time this cup has been in. We have Vigoroth with Rock Slide, Charjabug with Volt Switch. We've got all of the Aerial Acers here. So there's quite a few things in this meta that, you know, are a bit more updated that could definitely make some waves in this meta as we take a look here at some of the Pokemon. Now, some things that I'm going to point out here is that this team, this cup is very much like play triple normal or risk the, you know, elemental RPS, right? So you're going to have to proceed with that in mind, but that's not to say that the elemental Pokemon, like, you know, water, electric, you know, those Pokemon, they're not good. It just means that you're going to have to keep in mind that you're going to have to deal with the very neutral normal type, and that's probably why the normal type is so well placed in this meta, is because it's just neutral into pretty much everything else. But let's go ahead and take a look at our first team here. We're going to see this meta. We're going to have Charjabug Double Water. So Charjabug is a pretty solid response to most of the grass types, having that X Scissor with a very spammy ability to, you know, just use those X Scissors over and over again with that Volt Switch, being able to generate energy so quickly. We've also got two water types in the back. Poliwrath is going to be pulling out that Lantern or other electric type, and then you're hoping that the Charjabug will be able to finish off that electric and then let Mantine be free in the back. Mantine is not an ideal safe swap for this team, for the simple fact that if a Lantern exists, you are completely walled and you get just destroyed and it feels bad. So it's better to bring something out like Poliwrath on the safe swap, which is going to allow you to do some damage, get some debuffs, and then let Charjabug kind of finish up the Lantern, and hopefully you get to use Mantine to be able to get those sweeps. So I'm rocking Ice Beam on the Mantine in this case. Water Pulse does not have as much play in this meta, I don't think, so it's going to be much more to your benefit to be running Ice Beam on the Mantine. So the problem here is that with most other cups that have a lot of Pokemon in them, our coverage is a flat F. And that's not to say that this team is bad and can't cover anything in this meta, but it's also because I forgot to run Charjabug when I rate the team. So let's hit the rate team button, and now it seems, look, it looks a lot better. Look at that. Goodness, sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. So we have straight B's and an A for consistency. This team is definitely not an F. We are chilling. I was playing around with this team, and I must have forgot to hit the rate team button with the Charjabug because it was just looking at Mantine and Poliwrath. But meta-wise, like Pidgeot, and we'll take a second to talk about Pidgeot for a minute, okay? Pidgeot in this meta is rocking the Brave Bird Feather Dance set in PvPoke. So it is going to be a sim hero like no other. Would you believe, trainers, that Pidgeot in this meta beats Charjabug, an electric type? I don't believe it, and I'm sure that there's a situation where it happens, but realistically, that's probably not going to be the case. So Charjabug has a solid answer to pretty much every flyer in this meta, and that allows it to be a good core mate to the Poliwrath. It also is very good into Lantern, especially when you start applying things like Icy Wind debuffs and things. Helps you get rid of it, and then, like we said, let that Mantine do some sweeping. Pidgeot, we have damage. We have ways to damage Pidgeot, okay? We have Electric Fast Move on Charjabug and the Discharge. We've also got Ice Beam on the Mantine. We've got Icy Wind on the Poliwrath. So we've got ways to deal with a Pidgeot if we do see one with this team. Otherwise, Dedenne is the only other thing that core breaks the team, where it really only slaps Mantine and Poliwrath around. Charjabug, it does resist all of Charjabug's moves, but Dedenne is a squishy Pokemon, so I imagine that Charjabug probably doesn't have a terrible matchup there. As long as you use a team effort, you might be able to handle it. Charjabug itself, also a little bit difficult. Like, if you encounter a Charjabug on the lead, you kind of have to stay in and deal with it in order to take it away from the other two Pokemon. But aside from that, this team does have coverage against pretty much the rest of the big hitters in this meta, so I think this is going to be a solid team. So let's take a look at team number 2 here as we get into this meta. So I talked about Pidgeot, right? And like we said, it's a sim hero. So what I did here was I put Aerial Ace over Feather Dance, or you could also do Feather Dance, Aerial Ace. I just put Aerial Ace to kind of give Pidgeot a little bit more of a realistic simulation as far as PvPoke's concerned. We've also got Diggersby, so right, you want something that's going to be able to beat, you know, a Steel or Electric. There's probably not very many Steels, but I know there might be a couple. A Ferrothorn kind of comes to mind, but I guess, you know, Pidgeot can deal with Ferrothorn, whereas the other two kind of get slapped around by it. But Diggersby able to handle Electrics as well as Quagsire. I think that Electric is really like the biggest issue for Pidgeot in this meta. So rating this team here, we're going to get straight Bs with a C for safety. Again, you're running a, you know, a RPS-y sort of team where you're using a flying type Pokemon with only flying type coverage moves, and then 2 ground types that are fairly weak to grass, right? But what we're doing here is we're using, I would say run Quagsire on the safe swap, because Stone Edge Aqua Tail is pretty goated on safe swap. But you could also use Diggersby, you know, with Hyper Beam. That's a very potent safe swap type of Pokemon as well. And then you're just trying to lure out, you know, that hard counter to one of these two. Now, I would say you could also use something like Zapdos or Emolga as a way to, you know, kind of grab a, you know, a grass type out, but as well as also being able to deal with Mantine and opposing Pidgeots a little bit better, as those are two things that this team does struggle with. But aside from that, you can see there's a lot more X's all over the place, and that's a pretty good deal because we like that. Now, Abomasnow, Pidgeot, Mantine are probably the biggest issues for this team, but again, those are all things that, like throwing Fire Punch on the Diggersby, or if you're able to land a Stone Edge on these Pokemon, Fire Punch and Diggersby for Abomasnow specifically. If you're able to land a Stone Edge on the Pidgeot or Mantine or the Abomasnow, and Pidgeot, like, even though Pidgeot loses to Abomasnow because of pacing, if you can get just a little bit of an energy advantage against the Abomasnow, your Aerial Aces will outpace if you do run that. You know, you just need like 2 or 3 wing attacks head start, and then you'll be able to sort of close out an Abomasnow in even shields. But aside from that, you know, we are utilizing Pidgeot with Brave Bird due to the lack of pretty much any like hard resist in this meta, aside from the Electrics. Like if there's a Lantern, right, you're going to be able to deal with that with the double ground. But that's pretty much, like, this team is looking pretty strong for this meta, and I like it a lot. You know, double ground is going to be pretty good as long as, you know, people are trying to run a lot of normals and Pidgeots and things, and even fire types. Like grass may not be as much of an issue, so you might be seeing more Electrics like Lantern, and this team goes okay against them. And Brave Bird from Pidgeot hurts a lot, even if it's resisted. So let's take a look at the next team here. This is a team that I cooked up in my head. This is not a PvPoke, you know, great team. This is I cooked this team up in my head, so sometimes that may go well, sometimes it may not go well. But Buzzwole beats pretty much every other fighter in this format, and it more or less but it just pummels things like Vigoroth and other things that are weak to fighting. Has that ability to go for superpower or lunge for that, you know, debuff and dip sort of strategy if you need to. And Dugong, absolutely a fantastic safe swap regardless of what league it's in, and because of the Spark nerf to Lantern, you now win the 0s and the 1s, I believe, with Dugong going straight Drill Run if you shield the Thunderbolt correctly. Credilli, I like as an interesting kind of pick in this meta, right? Because it's able to deal with flyers, able to deal with waters, able to deal with a lot of other things in this meta that, you know, and it's also considered an anti-flyer, which is really the main thing you want here, is 2 things that have play into fire and flying, while also, you know, being able to back up Buzzwole, right? So Buzzwole, I think, is going to be interesting, but if you don't have a Buzzwole, you could use pretty much any, you know, fighting, anti-fighter sort of Pokemon here. Like if you wanted to use a flyer, you could just have something that can beat things like Vigoroth and other counter users like Poliwrath as well. But this team here, it's got a C for coverage because, again, Buzzwole is a very sort of linear type of Pokemon. It's, you know, only able to do damage to, you know, in good ways to things that it doesn't resist it. Like if you hit a flyer with the Buzzwole, you're done. That's it. Buzzwole's not going to have a good time. But, you know, anything else that's neutral into Buzzwole, you could grind that matchup out. Now, Charjabug I could see being a potential problem for this team. And Pidgeot, maybe, depending on how they play the Pidgeot matchup. But, you know, also worth mentioning, and I've done this before in some other formats with Buzzwole and Pidgeot in them, is that superpowers from Buzzwole hurt a lot, even though it's Pidgeot. So keep that in mind. Even if you hit a Pidgeot lead, you safe swap out, try and get a farm down with Buzzwole, and hit them with that superpower and try to lower their attack or lower their HP, and then you can hopefully finish it up with another superpower later in the game. But Skeleturge is a problem for this team. Yes, absolutely. If you see a lot of fire, like a lot of Skeleturge, then it might be time to try something that's not Buzzwole. But overall, you know, the only things that really beat this entire team on paper are gonna just be Skeleturge and some other fire types that really you're not gonna see. And I guess Buzzwole mirror, it kind of cancels itself out, but the team has a pretty fair amount of coverage, and I think could be a good anti-meta team if, you know, you see a lot of people trying to run things like normal teams and trying to run, you know, flyers in the back, things like that. So let's take a look at another team here in this meta as we look forward here. You can tell I'm really bad with transitioning in my own videos, but anyway, Toxapex, Magcargo, and Vigoroth. Now the Magcargo can go. It can also not go. It depends on what you're seeing, right? Because Magcargo, really, really solid Pokemon into a lot of the flyers, roasts the grass types, and has a lot of play with, if you want to run Rock Tomb, you can, but I'm a personal preference. I personally prefer Stone Edge on my Magcargos. It just adds a little bit more sweetness to that one shot when you land it on a flyer. But, you know, Toxapex being the top Pokemon in this meta, we kind of had to figure something out, and I figured it would probably core well with Vigoroth, but Vigoroth could be the safe swap as well. You also don't even have to run Magcargo if you don't want to. You could certainly, you know, use another normal type if you like. Just trying to make sure that it's something that can beat, you know, like Ferrothorn, and some other Pokemon that, you know, can kind of defeat a Toxapex because of its bad pacing and its not so great charge moves, right? You just want to be able to make sure that whatever you're using in the back along, you know, along with the Toxapex and the Vigoroth can deal with, you know, I would say Steel's, honestly. Steel's probably the biggest one, like Magnezone, Ferrothorn, those ones. So another fighter could be worth it, but the team overall ranks pretty well here in PvP Poke. There's a good amount of bulk here. We got good coverage on the meta, and it's a pretty consistent team. But again, safety, you know, when you're dealing with something like Toxapex and Magcargo, two very, you know, alignment sort of dependent Pokemon. Not to say that Magcargo can't hit something really hard with its moves, because Overheat, Stone Edge, hello, those nuke, those will hurt a lot. Quagsire is like, and Mud Boys are going to be the things that really stick out to me as problems, as well as Lantern here. So you want to make sure that if you're seeing a lot of those, I would definitely look to use something that beats those more so than I would want to use Magcargo. But overall, you know, your issues here are mostly going to stem from ground types, which is definitely an issue. So again, like you said, if you've seen a lot of ground types, maybe pivot away from the Magcargo. But aside from that, Magcargo is just a fun Pokemon to use. And if the opponent tries to safe swap a grass type, you absolutely laugh at them as your Magcargo roasts their whole face off. So That's this team. Let's take a look at one more team here in the Summer Cup. Or Summer? Sunshine? I don't even... Dude, I'm mixing them all up. I think it's Sunshine Cup. All right. Last team here. Oh, Summer Cup. See? Dude, there's so many dang cups with a similar name, and I don't even know them all anymore. But we got Lantern here. I know, yawn. Oh, God, the fish. Look, it's water gun fish, okay? So it's not as swampy as you think. But Trevenant, Tropius in the back alongside the Lantern. Using Trevenant on the safe swap here. With the Seed Bomb buff, now Trevenant can hit Vigoroth for about half of its HP with a Seed Bomb, so it now becomes a Vigoroth counter once again, because it outpaces the Vigoroth and it's able to two-shot with Seed Bomb. So Tropius being another Pokemon here, I would probably safe swap the Trevenant if I was going to pick one of the two. But if you see a lot of like normal types, like if Lickitung somehow makes a resurgence in this meta, then that would be a problem. I think that would be the only normal type that I would truly be scared of. Depending on Greedent too is another one that could be an issue. Depending on if it's running Crunch or Trailblaze as a second move, that could be kind of dicey. But Trevenant does well into Greedent if it's running Trailblaze and Body Slam. But another team with B coverage, B bulk, and we got a C for safety and A for consistency, even though Trevenant's kind of blocking it here. So really, really good damaging team here. You have definitely like good bulk in the Lantern and the Tropius. And if you don't have a Tropius, you could certainly run something like Jumpluff. But as I've always said when it comes to comparing the two, I believe that the fast move damage from Air Slash from Tropius really does make that difference. So if you have a Tropius, we'll be super solid here. As we said, Lickitung could be an issue here, and like grass types that are also anti-grass could certainly pose a problem. So Tropius comes up as one of those things. Trevenant also a bit of a pain point here, but I think that you could manage a Tropius. I think you could manage a Trevenant rather if you had to, as I'm not even showing the whole thing here. But Lantern does look like it could be super solid in this meta. It's really going to come down to what the meta like shakes up. Is it going to be a bunch of normal types? There's going to be the elementals and RPS and all that. And this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, this is definitely an RPS sort of team. Like, you're basically, you know, focusing on typing alignment to win the game rather than just like neutral play with the normal types. So that's why I was saying when there's like that duality of, do you want to run all the normal types and have neutral play, or do you want to try to win matchups with the elemental typings? It's a mess. But really, Toxapex, Lickitung, and Abomasnow are the only things that I can see on this list, aside from that Tropius, that are really a problem for this team. If you want to, you could certainly run Spark. I think Spark is overall more beneficial as far as PV poke is concerned, but from my perspective, I think that Water Gun could do just fine. But this is the last team I got here. Thank you all very much. Just real quick here, before we close out the video, you know, we're doing write-ups in the Patreon Discord, YouTube membership Discord. If you want to join it, there's a link in the pinned comment description on how to join on either side. You know, the support always really beneficial to me and my family, helps us, you know, kind of deal with things for the kids. And also, you get early access to the teams, the meta guides, you know, everything that I put in that Discord, and it's got an amazing community of people who are all trying to help each other get better every day. So, I mean, if I wasn't paying for it, I would be, let's be honest. But anyway, enough of my shilling. I know that not everybody wants to hear it, and this is the end of the video, so if you've probably peaced out by now. But thank you all very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one, guys. Bye-bye.